Shalom, Yasharallah. First and foremost, I would like to give all glory, honor, and infinite praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Chachadash. I'd like to say double honors to the beloved elders and the apostles at Great Millstone that taught me this truth, and peace and salutations to all you hopeful elect Akim out there laboring that are pushing this word in truth and in sincerity. This is your brother Amar from the GMS Boise, Idaho camp, and I'm doing this lesson, just through the spirit. I was sitting here contemplating on what I wanted to do my lesson on, and without even really thinking too much about it, it just came right to me, through the spirit. Lord willing, it's edifying. And I guess the topic offhand is, just the stress we deal with in this flesh, the stress that we deal with knowing what's going on in the world. As the scriptures say, he who increaseth wisdom also increaseth sorrow. But the point being is that, a lot of brothers, been in this truth for years, at this point, talking to the majority, and you've really known to accept and understand suffering, different trials, how to deal with your stress, how to deal with whatever hell you're catching, whether it be at your house, whether it be dealing with your immediate family. Some brothers catch the most hell at their job. Some brothers got a demanding job, a stressful job, whatever it may be. Your car is making some weird noises. Your water heater went out. You just renewed your lease and they raised it another $200, $100, if you're lucky. The cost of living. The list goes on and on and on. But we know that we have a comforter in this thing. And that comforter is the scriptures. Brothers, if you're ever feeling down, if you ever need some questions asked, if you ever feel like something's just not right, I guarantee, with some prayer before you start reading, you pray to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, to give you wisdom, some understanding, knowledge, some comfort, and then start reading the scriptures, and I guarantee you will start feeling better. Say your prayers, obviously, throughout your whole day. Brothers be throwing up prayers. I know I be praying constantly when I get in the car, before I eat, throughout my day. Sometimes I ask the Lord, please give me patience. Lord, please have time go by quick today. Lord, please everything go according to plan. All throughout the day, man, you're asking the Lord for different things. And we can't help, because we are in this flesh, because we are, in this fallen world, because we're human. We feel stressed out. We feel some type of way. Things just aren't going right. And it's human. I guess you could say human nature to focus more on the negative. Because the negative is a survival instinct that you focus more on because it's amplified, because it's something that your body needs to be aware on. And there's like they say, good stress, and there's good things that you should be worrying about, but there's also, a point where you got to just let everything go. Understand that Yahweh Shai is working. There's certain things that are in your life for temporary reasons, some for longer reasons. Some things happen in your day just to teach you a lesson, or make sure that you're thinking the right type of way, or put you in check. Lord will put a test. And I guess what I'm just trying to say is that, all brothers are feeling it. We're feeling, elevated through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, because of strength that he's given you, to increase in the scriptures, to always want to go into, different subjects that are going on in the world, prophecy, the kingdom getting even more closer. That you should be excited that things are getting bad, but I'm just speaking on like a personal level, on shit that we deal with to the day, because day to day, the elect, the 1/3, we ain't happy, man. We ain't happy. Sometimes you may be in more of a bad mood than not, and that's just because our spirit is so against this place, whether we know it or not. Like the movie The Matrix. In the beginning of the movie The Matrix, you had Neo asleep at his computer because he was constantly looking for the answers, constantly looking for why is this and why is that, and we are, spiritual Neos, looking for the answers, and we found it. When you get that red pill and you finally come into the truth and you realize what it's all about, there's a lot of closure, but also I'm going to get that scripture, Lord willing, here soon, but the point being that the more you know, the more you're like, damn, the videos that you come across, that you see online, different interactions you have with your coworkers or your loved ones, your family, whoever it is around you, man, it makes you realize that we really need the kingdom, and you shouldn't have to catch hell to realize that you need the kingdom. You should be searching for it because it's in your spirit, and the fear of Yahweh Shai is upon you. Because you know it's coming, and you want to be doing the right thing to the best of your ability that you can when that day comes. But this is Ecclesiastes 12:1. Remember now the Creator in the days of thy youth. Not when you're old, not when you're on your last leg of life and you realize, I'll go sit in the church now. I need some social company. Like a lot of people do that go to the Christian church. It's a lot of old heads in there, man. And they haven't been there their whole life. They gave the Lord their last little bit of life because they know they're on their way out. No, the Lord wants you to serve him in your youth. While you got some life and spirit and you can do the work. You can go out there in season and out of season and prophesy. Not when you're old and you got to sit down every 30 minutes because your legs get weak or whatever it is, and not this, and the apostles are our best examples. Look at, they're up in age. All the apostles got white hair, gray hairs for the most part, so they're not taking any breaks. So what do you young bucks, what do you young Jakes got to excuse on? Nothing. You got your energy, you got your vitality, you got your strength, and so you should be doing everything according to what your talents are, to push the ministry. Again, this is Ecclesiastes 12:1. Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. Going into these hard times that are coming, the different ups and downs of life. If you serve Yahweh Shai, the ups and downs, when they do come, because they are guaranteed to come, you know how to deal with them in wisdom, because you've established yourself as a youth in this truth. You didn't put the Lord off to the end. Oh, I'll get there next year. Oh, next year. Oh, next year. No, man. Because next year, sooner than later, is not going to come. In the sense of what you think as a normal life. Esau's system is not continuing forever. So thinking that you have time before the bad times come, man, you don't. Because you're dealing with bad times all the time. Here living in captivity, Babylon the Great, or wherever you are as an Israelite living under the curses. You're going to want to know how to deal with them. And the way that we fight, dealing with certain emotions and stuff like that is through prayer, faith, and living righteously, that your conscience doesn't condemn you, knowing that you're doing the right thing. And so in a way, I'm speaking as a man, you're expecting your prayers to be answered. I know when I pray, I expect my prayers to be answered. And it's not saying like in a prideful way. It's just because I have so much faith that Yahweh Shai is going to take care of the situation, whatever I ask of him. And I've seen, and I've done prayers before where I asked the Lord to exactly, take care of a situation, how I, want it to be taken care of. And he does, man. And that's called Halal Yahweh Bashmi Shai, man. And I've seen the power of prayer. But when you're not doing the right thing, you don't got that hedge of protection. So when the evil days come, you're getting fucked up from all different angles, man. You're getting a left jab, a right jab, right hook, right haymaker, man. You're all messed up. You're bleeding. You're leaking. And you still got to go through life, man. No answers. And I've seen my dad, go through hell without no answers. Even though I tried giving him the truth, he's still, obviously stuck in his ways, man. Old bottle. And only I always thought this as a man, if only he knew what I knew, he would not be stressing as much as he is. And that, but when you can't, you can, like they say, you can bring the horse to the fountain, but you can't make him drink. And as much as I love my dad, he does not accept this truth, man. He's stuck on white Jesus. My family comes out of the Seventh-day Adventist church, and the way that they deal with problems is very worldly. Funerals is the end of the world. When my grandfather passed away on my dad's side, it was the end of the world. I felt it, just like anybody else, losing a loved one. But we understand and have the, how do you say, the comfort that we really do know that he's living in a better place. His spirit is in the spiritual world at rest, at peace, and he's rooting me on. But to those that don't have the truth, they think in just the worst, doom and gloom. He's not here. Oh man, he's asleep. No, man, he's alive and out just in the spirit world. Like all spirits go before the throne. But Salakia, not to get too much off topic, but you have to really root yourself and ground yourself and build your foundation upon Yahweh Shai before those waves come and crash against your house. Now, Lord willing, I'll get that next. But I'm going to read a couple more. Ecclesiastes 12:1. While the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble. The keepers of the house are now going into, the powers that be, the different government authorities. And the strong men shall bow themselves. There's going to be big, strong men are going to even get weak and bend. And grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. So these jobs are getting hit heavy. That look out of the windows be darkened, and that's going into you looking at the forecasts. You looking at what's coming down in the future is not looking any better. So if you're not established in this truth, you're going to just only see doom and gloom. But we know that we're just catching hell in the meantime. We're dealing with hell. We're dealing with our whatever bullshit that we got to deal with in our own personal life. But we know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. These fucking Christians don't know if they go into heaven or hell. Bug the hell out. But we have this comfort through the Comforter, the words of Yahweh Yahushai, the prophets, the law, prophecy, top to bottom, man. It's very comforting when you realize, what's coming in the future. It's reassuring. Ecclesiastes 12:4, and the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. Just the point being is that, hard times are coming. I've done plenty of breakdowns on that scripture. Brothers should know what that means. The doors shut in the streets, going into the businesses, sound of the grinding, which is where you see the grinding of the mill. Usually where you, in the ancient world, there's always be flour or whatever getting ground up to make more bread. That ain't going to be happening. Representation of these factories. And all the daughters of music be brought low, man. All the daughters of music brought low. Man, music is trash nowadays. You're lucky if you catch a couple artists that you like to listen to, man. But most people are still playing music from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and, that era. So I wanted to go to the scripture. More knowledge, more sorrow. KJV. This is Ecclesiastes 1:18. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow. Going into, brothers looking at the situation of the world, looking at what they are dealing with in their own personal life, and they're dissecting it. And I guess you could say, what is the word? They're translating the scriptures on how it applies to their life. And the more that you see what the scriptures are saying about your life, you're realizing that you're under the curses, you're living in captivity. Esau gets a cut of your check before you do. Fucking taxes, bills, different family problems, the list goes on, and you understand that it's all going back to the curses, and that not everybody is dealing with the same problems as an Israelite, because again, the curses. So the salvation is not for the heathen, because they don't need saved from anything. Point blank, period. They're living in their world. This is a heathenistic world that has fallen and that will be put back in order under Yahweh Yahweh Shai. And we just have to endure until we, you know, get out of here. And I have a couple scriptures. House. And I want to go into that parable. And it starts in Matthew 7 and 24. Matthew 7 and 24. Here we go. This is one of my favorite parables to always bring up, because those that are, establishing their house, they're putting all their eggs in one basket, they putting it in the wrong thing if they are not putting it in the truth as taught by the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. This is Matthew 7 and 24. Therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man, which built his house upon a rock. Verse 25, and the rain descended, and the floods came, and the wind blew, and beat upon that house. And that's a representation of Jacob's trouble, hard times. Just hard times in general, but mainly Jacob's trouble when that final testing comes. And it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. And that rock, pursuing to Daniel chapter 2, formed without hands, is Yahweh Shai. Verse 25, Salakia, verse 26, and every one that heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them not shall be likened unto a foolish man, which built his house upon the sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the wind blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. Whew, man, great was the fall of it. Have you ever seen a house get demoed? Have you ever seen a house explode? Like, there's a couple videos online of people getting gas leaks in their house, and that fucking house fucking explodes from the inside out, man. It's everywhere. A couple blocks away, you got your pieces of wood of your house spread all over the place, man. Ultimately, when Jacob's trouble comes, you're going to take that charagma. You're going to make a wrong move. You're going to act out the flesh because you're scared of Esau more than you're scared of Yahweh Shai. And ultimately, great was the fall of it. So because you're not building up your spirit right now, you're not building your foundation, you're not crying, you're not sighing and crying for all the abominations. You're content in this place. I'm not saying you got to be sad and miserable and all fucking doom and gloom and woe is me all the time. But having that type of spirit comes with understanding the Bible, and to most people that may sound weird, but because you can't read the Bible, you can't read the scriptures, know the truth of the history of the Israelites, knowing that you are an Israelite, because all these videos are geared toward the elect, the hopeful elect. I ain't even talking to you heathens. You can't help but look at these scriptures and be angry at what happened to you, your ancestors, if you understand reincarnation, the different things that we had to go through as a people and still living in to this day. The different ice raids, different horror stories that you hear of Jake being falsely accused, the mistreatment of the Israelites, on and on and on, man. You can't look, like they say in the world, if you're not angry, you're not paying attention. And there's a lot of truth to that saying, but again, everything is balanced. Like, we ain't mad all the time. We have good days, but you're going to have more down days and more bad days in this truth than you are going to have good days. And I can't remember which elder coined that term, but it stuck with me, man. It said, you're going to suffer more in this truth than you are having like, oh, everything's good, I'm having a good time, life is good. Like, no, you're going to suffer more coming into this truth than you understand. So with that being said, I wanted to go to Romans 8 and 26, and I'm going to shut it down with this. I'm going to start at 24. The point is at 26. This is Romans 8 and 24. For we are saved by hope, and that hope is our hopeful salvation with getting beamed up in new bodies. Yahushua coming and cracking the clouds and beaming up his remnant and the elect. For we are saved by hope. But hope that is seen is not hope. For what a man seeth, why doth he yet hope for? And that's where faith comes in, because you got to have faith for something that you can't see. Like scriptures say, the doubting Thomas, what Yahushua said to Thomas, he said, blessed are your eyes before you see, and believe, but blessed be those that don't see and believe. So those that didn't even see Yahushua were teaching Yahushua like crazy, man, and they didn't even have to see him. They weren't even walking with him. They didn't even see any miracles. All they knew were the stories, and they had faith. And that's what your faith is gonna have to be on 10, because everybody's gonna be tested. You're gonna go without food. You're gonna go through hard times. You're gonna be ostracized from society. You're gonna be labeled public enemy number 1. Can you deal with that pressure? Can you deal with being pointed out? Man, I can't remember which apostle said, I'll never deny you, Lord. I want to say it was Peter. Salakia if I'm wrong, but then, he denied the Lord 3 times. When all those people were questioning him. Yeah, this man right here, he was with them. No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't. Boom. The cock crowed. Just like Yahushua told him. I believe it was Peter. Salakia. I should be more confident on the answer, but because Peter was gung-ho, ready to take the head off of a Roman, man, but he got his ear when that came. So your faith is going to have to be on 10 in that day, and you're going to have to deal with being the bad guy in this world. Romans 8 and 25 again, but if we hope for that we see not, then do we with patience wait for it? And that word patience goes into suffering. We're going to have to suffer and deal with these other people above us, like Ezra's did. He went up and down. He saw all the heathen going into their idol worship, and they were getting more blessed than Israel. And he said, man, if we be your chosen, why these other heathen nations all, doing way better? Me speaking as a man, but, scriptures, talk about that. I believe it says 2 Ezra 6 and 54, 56, around there, where it says, but we, thy only begotten, thy fervent lover, are given into their hands. Roughly paraphrasing, man, we catching hell. Verse 26, this is the point, because you don't always know what to say in your prayers. You just know that you're catching hell. Sometimes, man, you want to start praying and you just start crying. You may not even, really know why you're crying, man. You just know that you're catching hell. You're tired. Your body's tired. Your spirit's tired. Tired of fucking dealing with people. Tired of dealing with these curses. But the Lord, you have to understand that Yahweh Yahushai is giving you strength. And he has your spirit here on this earth because he knows that you're strong enough to deal with what's coming. And that in itself is reassuring. This is Romans 8 and 26. This is the point. Likewise, the Spirit also helpeth our infirmities. For we know not what we should pray for as we ought. So you should know what you need to pray for, but sometimes you just don't know, man. Sometimes you got so many different thoughts in your head. The flesh getting at you, spirits attacking, whatever it may be, man. You just start, crying out to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Lord, help. All brothers have been there. Continuing, but the Spirit itself maketh intercession for us with groanings which cannot be uttered. Man, Lord knows what's in your heart. And even though we have, like scriptures say, the heart is deceitful among all things. Man, the Lord knows when you're catching hell and you don't know exactly what to pray for. You're just crying. Whatever it is, man, you're having an intimate moment in the spirit with Yahweh Yahushai, and you just leave it in his hands, man. And that in itself is a major leap of faith that most people can't even do. To call upon a higher power and to just let him deal with it. Because you don't even know what you want to ask for. Maybe what you're going to ask for ain't the way to deal with it. And you just want the Lord to work it out. And that's that. Verse 27, and he that searcheth the hearts knoweth what is the mind of the Spirit, because he maketh intercession for the saints according to the will of the Most High. And that is Yahushai, which is our intercession between us and Yahweh. Obviously our angels carry up the prayers, but ultimately on that day of judgment, Yahushai is going to be that a mediator between us and Yahweh. And for the effort that you've done on this side, for what you did to the best of your ability is what's going to be judged. Not that you followed the laws, statutes, and commandments to the T, because it's impossible to be righteous under the law in this captivity. But it is very possible to be righteous under Yahushai in this captivity. And that is something you have to completely have faith on in these last days, because we all need a Savior that are of the seed of Jacob. So that is really reassuring that we have someone looking out for us, and that even though you're praying or even crying, you don't even know what to pray about exactly, know that Yahushai has you taken care of. And that's something you have to have, based off faith. It takes practice. It takes the Lord just, I'll say this as a man, because I don't know how else to say it, but sometimes you just got to let the Lord work. Sometimes you just got to take the punches. Like my mom always used to say, son, sometimes you just have to roll with the punches. Sometimes you're just catching hell and you just got to take it, man. And pray to Yahushai that he gives you the strength, perseverance, and comfort to endure in those times. And if brothers want more information, there's a plethora. There's plenty of different scriptures in Hebrew, prayers in Hebrew. There's I want to say it's Sirach chapter 23. The whole Sirach 23 is a prayer to Yahushai, Yahushai. A very comforting one at that. So this lesson, just through the Spirit, a little righteous rant, uplifting your spirits, hopefully, to brothers and the Akia Makwat know that they're not the only ones dealing with these types of thoughts, feeling down some days. I know the weather got a lot of people feeling down, what they call seasonal depression. You got to fight it. Go work out, get your squats in, drink water. Don't eat too much processed foods. Make sure that you're putting your body under physical stress to where it sweats, because believe it or not, when your body sweats and you have sore muscles, it naturally releases endorphins in your brain that make you happy. Because the amount of chemicals and hormones and stuff we got to deal with in Esau's society that we come in contact with the plastic, the chemicals, the food, the so-called fertilizers, whatever it is, man. You need to be doing something in your body. And I highly recommend brothers be working out. Get in the gym. If you're feeling down, put on a lesson. Go get your squats on. Make yourself sweat. Push your body. Because it always makes me feel better. Let me just say that. When you get done with a good workout, I don't care what mood you're in going into that workout, you always feel better when you get done. So that's just my 2 cents. And Lord willing, this was edifying unto the elect, to whoever needs to hear this. And keep pushing, keep persevering, because we are almost out of here. So Lord willing, that this was edifying unto the elect. Till next time, I would like to give all glory, honor, and infinite praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem Chodash. And double honors to beloved elders and the apostles at Great Millstone that taught me this truth. And peace and salutations to all you hopeful like Akim out there laboring, that are pushing this word in truth and in sincerity. Till next time, Lord willing,